Great. So again, thanks everyone for joining today. Happy always to have a lot of attendees from the OptimoRoute audience here, customers, prospects, new customers, old customers. We're always glad to be able to present some content to you guys. Um, this session today is what we're calling OptimoRoute 101. It's basically all of these webinars have been kind of guided by your feedback. This was one that was heavily requested by the audience, really to kind of dig into some early stage, how do we get started with the platform? We know it's probably more tailored for new folks. So, certainly we understand that if you're an existing OptimoRoute customer, you might know some of this already. But remember, these sessions, we always have a Q&A at the end, and we can cover topics that we went into today or anything that might be a question that you have around OptimoRoute. So as always, use the chat bar. Start pushing your questions across to us as soon as you have them. We'll cover all of those at the end of the overview today. The other thing, just a quick note, we've gotten a lot of requests from Australia and some of our APAC customers to have a time that might be a little bit more appropriate for them. And so we will redo this session at a time that's more convenient for them. Certainly if they're on here, thanks for joining at an inconvenient time. But we understand that point, and we will do future webinars where we do a time geared toward the US and Europe, and then a time better suited for APAC and Australia. So with that, let me just again get us started by introducing myself. I'm Bart Bartolozzi. I'm in charge of product marketing and the marketing team here at OptimoRoute. I am joined by two colleagues who are longtime OptimoRoute folks, working with lots of our customers, very suited for this topic in general today. So with that, I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. I'll turn it over first to Devin.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bart. Hi, everybody. My name is Devin. I'm one of the customer success managers here at OptimoRoute. I've been with the company for probably a little bit more than 7 years now. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time working with businesses of many different sizes, trying to find the best workflow that suits them and have a clearer understanding of OptimoRoute as a platform and a software. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of the things that new users might miss or should maybe be aware of when they first start off with OptimoRoute.
Thank you, sir. Nevin, I will turn it over to you also to make introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nevin. I'm a senior account executive at OptimoRoute, and I've been with the company for 5 years now. I've helped, I would say, hundreds of the small and large businesses get started and fall in love with OptimoRoute.
Cool. Great. Well, with that, I want to dig right into the topic today. Again, this is OptimoRoute 101. It's everything about getting started with the platform. And so before we really dig into kind of looking into the platform and some overviews, when I start to think about what I want to do first, let's say I'm a new customer, new to the platform, what should I think about? What should I know about OptimoRoute before I even start to dig in? Devin, why don't you take that first question?
Sure. So I would say one thing to know is OptimoRoute is very versatile and very comprehensive. It's strong enough to support businesses with complex and complicated workflows, but as well as those that have very straightforward and simple needs or requirements. I'd say when starting with OptimoRoute, the moment you have a question, we have a big support team and a lot of sales reps who are happy to walk through whatever the question or issue may be to help you find a solution. So I guess the main thing is just don't be afraid to ask questions as well. We have a lot of people who want everybody to be as successful as possible.
Thank you, sir. Nevin, similar question to you, just to get us kicked off here. For a new customer just getting into the platform, what should they think about?
I would say just to have fun with the software. It's going to become your best friend. If you need simple routing to help cut down time and get you going, that's us. Also, to piggyback on Devin's answer, there are no wrong questions. Basically, we're here to help you throughout the process, and we take pride in helping people be successful.
Cool. Yeah, I think you both mentioned it, right? With the platform is really meant to be as simple and as easy for new customers to use as possible. We want to get you up and routing as quickly as you can, right? And so for customers, we want you doing that as soon as you sign into the platform. And then for those with more complex workflows, as Devin mentioned, right, we can make the software as workflow intensive as you might need for your business. And if you have thoughts about how you want to improve those workflows, again, our team is available to answer those questions. Reach out. They can help you set up the right workflow based on what you want to do as a business. So without further ado, but Nevin, I'll start with you this time. Let's get right into the first step in using OptimoRoute. And where would you begin?
Perfect. Great question. I would personally start with importing their orders. So here, let me do this. I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. So right over here in the main dashboard, you'll see under import orders. If we click this over here, you'll be able to see that we can import from an Excel file, CSV. We can manually copy paste addresses. Right over here, we could even download an example file that would be, let's say, a guideline for you to how to import, I will show you right now basically what that would look like. I'll take a template. I'm going to drag one over here. Now, once we imported, our example file or your Excel file, everything, this is we're at the mapping page. We even have AI that, if let's say the names don't match, our AI will pretty much understand what you're trying to map. But let's say if it still doesn't, right over here, it's going to show as not mapped. But you could always simply click this little arrow and map it yourself. And right over there, then we go to continue and we import the orders, and pretty much we click save and you're on your way. Bart, I think you're on mute.
Yep, sorry about that. You mentioned it, right? This can be super simple. So somebody can just type in the order directly into the platform, or as you mentioned, pull down the template, mirror the template, and then upload a CSV Excel file with all of your orders pretty quickly into the platform. So that's kind of, again, getting into moving things a little bit faster. Ideally, Devin, I'll throw this over to you, and maybe it's a question not necessarily for 101, but for the 201 session that follows, but just wanted to tee it up. We talked about kind of a manual workflow there. When you start to think about automating your workflows, whether you've got something like an order management system, an ERP platform, transportation management system, can you kind of talk through quickly what OptimoRoute can do for you there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the, I'd say, best features that OptimoRoute has is our open API. So for anybody who might be familiar with what an API is, it's basically a connection or a way of connecting two programs or platforms together to easily share or swap information between the two. So as you mentioned, this could be perfect for any business that has CRM, ERP, TMS, WMS, any other acronym that you can think of. It's basically, making sure that the information that you keep within another platform can very quickly and easily get moved into OptimoRoute, and then also pulled back from OptimoRoute. So one of the big benefits of this is going to really tamper down on doing any double work. Basically you put it into one system, you don't have to worry about exports or imports or anything like that. It's just a matter of a click of a button to get the information where it needs to go automatically. I'll just say, if anybody does have another platform like that that they would like to see integrated with OptimoRoute, we do have a team of implementation consultants who are ready and happy to help answer questions on how to get started with that implementation. Basically, they can work closely with your IT team or any programmer that you may have on hand to make sure that that integration is done the right way. So yeah, kind of to my first, similar to my first answer. Any questions, reach out to us.
Cool. And just to remind audiences, I've seen folks, large platforms that large customers that have integrated large platforms, and very small customers who just want to not do double work. So again, it's about making things easier for you. And as Devin just mentioned, any questions around that, feel free to reach out to the team. We can kind of walk you through, some of the ideas you're thinking about, tell you the best way to execute against those. So Devin, let's stick with you here while we're still talking, and take us to the next step in getting started with OptimoRoute. After you've got your orders into the platform, where do we go next?
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen here. Bear with me 2 seconds. And it should be loaded up now. So yeah, similar to the screen that, or the workflow, the steps that Nevin took us through, we can see, I have my map. My business here is located in Boston. We have all of our blue pins with the white dot. Those are our unscheduled orders that are sitting in OptimoRoute. Basically, the next step is going to be we click plan orders. You'll notice that all these blue buttons are kind of in sequence as to the steps you would take going throughout the workflow. So after importing orders, we click plan routes, and that is going to open up our planning settings window. Now, planning settings, that's basically going to be, I'll show here the basic view. It's essentially, think of it as your cockpit, your sort of main dashboard for the day. So in this screen, we can make any change that's specific to only a day. So we can say deactivate a driver if they're not going to be available for that shift. We can change their working hours here. You can see that sometimes we have the ability to have vehicles, so you can change vehicles if the default vehicle they generally have is out for whatever reason, maintenance, let's say. You can do all of that from one spot. But seeing as this is a demo that I prepped, everything's more or less set the way we would want it to be. And we can go here and click plan on the bottom right of that window, at which point this is now the system going through the various calculations. So a lot of what's being calculated is not only the start and end location of each driver, but obviously the distance between pins and any other constraints that we may have. So I think for delivery companies, that's going to be possibly load sizes, load versus capacity, knowing how much you can fit onto a vehicle for delivery, as well as service providers, time windows. We can include time windows in there as well. And the algorithm is basically paying attention to all that information. So you can see here with the end result, we've optimized this so that we need 3 drivers. They each have their own color here. And that's basically what you do after importing all your orders.
Cool. And just as you showed, Devin, you can immediately start to optimize your orders as soon as they're in the system. But as you mentioned, as you want to get more advanced, you can really start to think about constraints. And so let's say you've got service technicians who are doing different types of jobs. You can put the job duration in there. You can put the customer preference for the time window that they have. You can require a certain vehicle that might have either special tools on it in the service industry, or again, for a delivery, maybe it's a larger truck that needs to handle big box types of orders. So all those constraints really funnel into the algorithm, just as you mentioned, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes into when I was saying it's very versatile and comprehensive. So basically, pretty much any constraint that I've come across, the system, we can find a way for it to be taken into consideration.
Cool. Nevin, before we move on to the next step, when we think about, again, planning orders here for the day, is there anything else that you would want to share with the audience?
Sorry, was that for me? I was busy changing things. Or was that for
No, it
Nevin?
was Nevin. I think Nevin. I'm sorry. This is the problem when we have rhyming names on.
I was about to say, so great question. Yes, there is something that I'm going to add to that. I'm just going to share my screen. So give me 1 second. Here we go. I would maybe show the timeline. I'm just going to wait for my screen to pop up. Here we go. So right over here, as you can see, and as Devin mentioned, basically everything's all planned out. But if we go to the timeline right over here, we'll basically be able to see everything for each driver. And we have a great feature that I'd like to show. Let's say, for example, this order right over here, I noticed that Mike got this order. However, I know John has a great relationship with the client or the customer. I could always simply drag this order and go over here to the name and say, fit this in John's schedule when it makes most sense and in his already planned route. And the software will basically do the thinking for you and put it right in there.
Cool. So any type of last minute ad hoc changes that the dispatcher, the route planner wants to make based on things they historically know. One, we could put those into the constraints, as Devin mentioned, and have the algorithm do it up front. But also after the fact, it's very quick to make any changes, as you just shown. Correct, Nevin?
Correct.
Cool. And so, Nevin, just sticking with you here, final step in sort of getting started with OptimoRoute after you've got that perfect plan in place. What's next?
So I would say now that the hard part is done, it comes the easy part, and that's sharing the routes to the driver app. I will show you basically what that looks like. So once we're all set, we're good to go. We go over here where it says share routes. We click this button and we send this to the driver app. So once I click this, you'll see that each driver is going to get their own set of routes. Basically, there's no mix up. We click send now. Perfect. The plan becomes live. Live just means that the drivers receive their orders. Everything's going as planned. They're on the road. Perfect day. Now, what our driver app looks like, it's like this right over here. So once you're in here, let me actually see if I could share this because you might not be able to see this. Give me 1 second, bear with me. Can you guys see the driver app?
Not yet. I think you got to stop sharing the other screen, Nevin.
Here we go. I'll try it like this. Now you should be able to. Perfect. So once we share the routes to the driver app, and once they download the app on their iPhone, Android, tablet, whatever they would be using, all they have to do is have this on duty button on. Now they'll be able to see, they'll receive their pickups, deliveries, their tasks for that day. They'll click the first one. Now they'll have the option for navigation. This will give them their turn-by-turn direction to each stop. Once they arrive at the location, they'll click Start Service. This is just them telling you, I arrived, everything's going as planned, perfect. Any details, whether it's a number of the customer, whether it's a note from your side, they'll be able to see this. Once they are finished, they will have the option to add a note, a message for yourself, grab a signature from the client, add photos. Basically, it's going to be like you're in the vehicle with them from the office or wherever you're going to be logging in. Once they're done, they simply hit complete, and then they'll do the same for stop 2, 3, so on and so on.
Cool. And just as Devin mentioned before, Nevin, when let's say they do decide to connect their core platform, whatever that may be, to OptimoRoute, you mentioned notes. Those would automatically come across with the orders?
Absolutely. So once they just write a note, they click complete in the live tab, the dispatcher or the person that would be doing the planning would be able to see that note in a matter of seconds.
Got it. And similarly, when a driver or somebody completing a service out in the field is done and they get a signature, obviously we capture that in OptimoRoute, but again, interconnected, it would go back into their core platform, correct?
Correct.
Cool. So luckily for most businesses, there's no last minute changes in the day. Everything runs crystal perfect every time. So once you push these out to your driver, you're basically done, right, Devin?
Absolutely. Nothing ever needs to be changed. We all know in the real world, everything just stays perfect. But if you happen to live in some fantasy land where some things sometimes go wrong, I can share my screen here and show people what they could potentially do in those cases. So just waiting for it to be visible here. All right. So in a scenario where we have maybe some new orders that have come in, for example, as I mentioned the last time I was sharing my screen, we have the blue pins with that white dot that pretty much always signifies that an order is unscheduled. So one thing that could be useful for people is, on the bottom right of this map, we do have a number of different pins that can sort of, let's say, change the display of the map. So I'm going to hide the routes themselves just so we can see the unscheduled orders. So in this scenario, we can say, hey, 2 new orders came in after the drivers have already been on the road. And so there's a couple of ways that we can actually go about this. One is, I obviously have my 3 routes here. And, because it's already kind of sequestered and organized and clustered amongst those routes, I pretty much already have a good sense as to who would likely take those jobs. So there's a couple of things that we can do. Like I said, similar to that drag and drop that Nevin had showed, where we can readjust routes in before they're planned. We can do something similar where as jobs come in, we do have this unscheduled orders little pop-up window here that I just exposed in the timeline. And so, for example, when I click this order, our order 139, we can see it on the map with the pink lines to highlight it. And I could actually, if I want, as Nevin had done, drag it over my driver, Frank, and similarly, it's going to optimize and say, okay, this is where it makes sense for that order to go for that driver's route. Alternatively, I'm just going to discard that change. Alternatively, we can also let the system decide where it's going to do that. And because we have 2 orders, maybe I don't want to focus on doing that manually and using the drag and drop. So we can actually have it where we have a setting for allowed changes here that we can see, keep planned orders with current drivers and fit in new orders. So the idea there is we might say, I really like the way that this current route is looking for each of my drivers or technicians, whoever they may be. So those 2 new orders, I would like to have them fit in wherever it makes sense. Or again, maybe we're going to have, 15, 20 new orders. So when I click plan, this is again going to be the system recalculating. If your drivers are using the mobile app, the great thing about that is the fact that it's going to understand what jobs have been completed, where the driver is going, and where he's going to be within his route. So it's going to be taking, again, all those things into consideration during the planning, and it's going to make sure that everything gets sequenced and the right people get the right jobs. So those are 2 ways that we can, let's say, make do with anything that comes up. I did also forget, there is one thing that could also be useful. Let's say it's before the routes even start and somebody calls in sick. There's a few places we can do this, but just on the left-hand side, if I select Frank and he's called in, he's no longer going to be available. We have this switch button here on the top left. For me, it's just underneath where we have the 0 unscheduled. When I select Frank, I can click switch, and I can go and select my driver Bob and click switch driver. Here they're saying there's some constraints. I can override those, whatever they may be. And here now, Bob has those routes. So those are some of the changes we can make. And yeah, that's how it's done.
Cool. Devin, once we make those changes and you share them across to the drivers, what do the drivers see from their side or the technicians?
Yeah, so whoever's using the mobile app itself, they actually, they're pretty much not going to see a huge change. Obviously, as the orders come in, they're following everything sort of stop by stop. But if there is an update to an individual's route, we're going to have a little pop-up that just lets them know saying, hey, you have one, two, however many new orders they might have. Again, just letting them know that there has been an update or a change, and then they can continue on doing their job as they would have, moments prior.
Yep. So a simple notification without disrupting their workflow going forward.
Exactly.
Cool. So for the most part, this is what we wanted to cover in 101 today. 201 will be scheduled in the next few weeks. We'll get into things like live order tracking, basically notifications and more. But this was 101 in a nutshell. So again, thanks for joining. I do want to mention again that we will be taking questions. So I see a bunch already in the chat. As we start to go through these, if there are things, again, whether it's related to this 101 session or other things OptimoRoute, this is your time to get those into the chat now. So please do. And with that, I'm going to take the first question. I'll toss it up to either of you guys. The first question basically says, I am still relatively new to OptimoRoute, trying to decide the best way to set up my team. Should I set up them by territories? Should I try to evenly distribute orders? Or is there another best practice that you can suggest?
So I can jump on that one. My recommendation is generally to kind of just let the algorithm show you how things can be done. Obviously, there's going to be different cases and arguments for having, say, service areas and whatnot. We do support service areas, so if that's the direction you want to go, it's just something that you can, let's say, adjust under the driver profile for each one of our drivers. We can go and say, okay, Alice is going to take this area, Frank takes this area, and Jen takes this area, and just sort of give them all their spots. But by creating arbitrary boundaries or lines, you can interfere with the level of optimization, let's say. So that's why my first recommendation is always let the system do its thing. We also have a balancing routes factor, so you can get some equality across those routes. But everybody saw how quick the algorithm is, so you're not really losing any time by letting it sort of show you, hey, this is the best way to get things done. And then you can sort of build off of it from there and figure out which workflow is going to be best for you.
So you want to let the data science do the work is what you're saying.
Let it do the heavy lifting. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The second question, and I may need a little bit more detail here, but I'll throw it out and see if you guys can figure out what the question is. Is this already a part of Visual Ticket? Anybody? Do we need a little bit more detail there?
Visual Ticket, I feel as if I've heard it before. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
All right. So maybe if for the person that sent that question in, if you could just type in a little bit more detail so we could, I think we just need some context. The second question, I think, again, could use a little more context, but I think it's a question of a routing priority versus timing question. So I guess it's efficiency versus business priority of customers. I guess that's really Nevin up to the constraints that our customers decide to put in there. Is that correct?
The way I understand the question, OptimoRoute has a priority field as well as time windows. We can support up to 3 time windows, but we also have priorities like low, medium, high, and critical. The big thing to understand with priorities is it's basically communicating with the system that something should be done. It's a high level of urgency, let's say. So something should be done as soon as possible. Compare that with, say, time windows, which is, essentially a hard constraint. If the software deems that something can't be reached within that time window, it's going to leave it unscheduled. But we do have a nice little unscheduled tab that appears where we have orders, routes, timeline. It appears beside that, so it can give you some insight as to why something may not have been scheduled. But it all depends on the business's needs. But my general recommendation is to aim with time windows and use priorities sparingly. Like I said, there is a use case to use priorities, but you can accomplish the vast majority of what you want by using time windows.
Cool. Thanks for that. Next question. I am from the UK. We've been using OptimoRoute for more than 3 years. We have a question about when we add an address on a live map and find that it's not correct. We then amend that by moving the pin location to the correct address or rewriting the address. However that works that time, but every other time we upload it, it gets back to the original location and they have to amend it again. Is there a way to make that fix permanent?
Yeah, so in that case, from the described workflow, dragging the pin should be the solution. The reason being is because the system is going to store, say, the address relative to the latitude and longitude, so the GPS locations, GPS coordinates. If you change the address, then it actually kind of looks like a new location when you're importing it. So if we have, 123 Main Street, and we see that it was geocoded not fully accurately, and we type in a new address to be 124 Main Street, the next time we import that customer, if the original import still has 123 Main Street, it's going to view as a new location, and it could continue to incorrectly geocode. So dragging the pin generally maintains that relationship between the address itself as well as where the GPS coordinates say it should lie. If you do experience continued issues with that, definitely reach out to support. Myself, I'd be happy to even take a closer look at that and just sort of walk through and find some examples where we can really see what's going on. And I'm certain that we'll have a solution for it.
Thank you, sir. This next question, I'll throw it out to you guys. We may need some context on it, though. Can you optimize the route to have all stops on the right side? So do you guys know what that means by right side? Or do we need a little bit?
I think I know. I'm assuming it's not the correct side, but the right side of the road. It's worthwhile to say that if you're in, say, the UK or Australia, South Africa, wherever else they drive on the wrong side of the road, we do have a setting that will support that. Basically, you do have to go into the administration options. Myself, actually, I don't use that feature all the time, or that setting, I should say, all the time. So I'm going to find it first before I share my screen. But yeah, we do have an option for for basically creating a route that avoids U-turns and crossing the street. So essentially that just means, and bear with me in 2 seconds, I am going to share my screen so I can show exactly where it is. But yeah, the idea is that similar to basically FedEx vehicles, things like that, they have access on a specific side, or say garbage trucks, they're always loading from one side. So what this is going to do, and if everybody can see my screen here, we have avoid U-turns. This is basically what that person would be asking for. How do you stop going from left side to right side as far as the routing is going? And yeah, just to clarify, administration, settings, route and planning, routing profiles, and that's where you can find it.
Great. Thanks for that, Devin.
Yeah.
Next question. Please let me know if there's a way to customize and print multiple routes. We only need customer name, address, phone number, and notes.
So I can answer that one as well. That's actually something long awaited by, I think, a number of customers. For the longest time, everything was sort of standardized. And to be honest, we refrained from making some changes to these exports because some people rely on having everything remain consistent. If you're importing OptimoRoute's export into another program, it could cause some issues if you end up removing columns, what previously was column H is now column D, that could cause some issues that's unexpected across different businesses that may not have wanted that change. So customizable exports, we don't have it in this exact moment, but it is something that we are actually actively working on. I'm not sure exactly the expected release date. I'm going to give myself some breathing room and say potentially January, February. But the hope, of course, is that we're going to have that even sooner. So fret not. There's going to be an in-house solution to that.
Great, thanks. Next question, how about planning for multiple days?
Yeah, so I can actually share my screen again because the account that I used, I had actually intended to not have weekly planning in that account just because this is 101 and weekly planning is slightly more advanced. But basically, planning across multiple days or weeks is supported with our weekly planning feature. People will have noticed that potentially on the bottom left of the map where we have the date right beside it when this feature is activated. And if anybody is interested in learning more about this and testing it out in their account, please contact our support, send in an email, give a call, whatever it may be, and we can activate it for the account. It is part of our pro plan. And basically, we can see I have the day selection, but all of this here is essentially a range. So it's both a planning range as well as a viewing range. And what that means is the system is going to be looking at a week based on the default, I believe, is Monday through Sunday. So by having December 7th, even though it's a Thursday, we would actually be looking at the 4th until the 10th. So that's, if I had my entire week with information, all of the orders would pertain to that. We can see my pins on the map. They have a TH because this route or these routes that I created happen to have been built on a Thursday. So TH is going to represent that. Obviously M for Monday, so on and so forth. And yeah, the planning settings window also reflects that with our advanced view, where we can go and let's say deactivate certain drivers on certain days. Again, we can sort of make general changes across the board for that range. So you can see here, I could, for example, select these 3 days across these 3 drivers, technicians, disable them. And then when I do plan the route, Monday through Friday is going to be considered except for those days for those drivers. So there's a lot of functionality that we can jump into there, but I'll refrain from getting any deeper just to keep this relatively 101 still. But we do have a help topic on it. So go to OptimoRoute.com, check out our support help topics. And yeah, if interested, contact our support and we can get it set up for you.
There's kind of a part B and a part C to that question as well, Devin. So for long haul routes that take multiple days to complete, can you speak to that?
Yes. So I don't have that activated in this particular account, but we do have a multi-day long haul feature that allows basically the system will plan a route from one day spanning across multiple days, where we design a route that says, okay, the driver is going to stop at this location so that they can start their day pretty much immediately from whatever let's say Monday's route ends where Tuesday route is going to begin. So it's not going to contact booking.com and book you a hotel or anything like that, but it will give you a sense as to where you can go, where you're going to be starting from. And as I said, it's going to build as many days as you essentially need. So it's similar to weekly planning, but there's a continuity with each one of these days.
And then the last part of that is, does it show then that route for the driver only the next day, or does it show that complete route for the multi-days across that long haul?
So right now it's only going to be on I should say specifically for the driver app. The driver app only ever shares 1 day at a time, and that's specific to whichever day or date is selected here in this view. So if I were to click share routes, send to driver app, it's going to be showing December 7th to all 3 of these drivers. If you do want the drivers to have at least a sense as to where they're going, we do have an export, for printing is probably going to be the ideal one here. So share routes, Excel export for printing. You can share that with the drivers, and that's going to actually sort of show it broken down per day as well. So they could see if it's across the entire week, they'll see Monday here, Tuesday here, Wednesday here. Or alternatively, you can even email the routes, and same thing, it's going to be able to share all that information with them.
Got it. Next question. It's a question of whether there's an option to just send routes to one driver, not all drivers, when you share the routes.
Yeah, so because there's a lot happening, the system is actually always communicating with all devices. So the key with that, though, is if I've made a change to, let's say, only Frank's route, then when I click share routes and send it, it's only actually communicating that change with Frank's. Jen and Alice, for example, might also have an update, but maybe it's going to be, the ETAs for their drops have been updated within their own app so that they can see, oh, hey, this job, I don't know, maybe they will have noticed that their next stop or 3 stops away, they're supposed to be somewhere at 11 o'clock. Maybe it's going to show 11:07 or something like that, because again, the system is taking a lot of live information into consideration as well. So it is going to be communicating, again, all the information about a route within a single day to all of the drivers, but only those drivers who have experienced a change on their route should be the ones who actually have a change on their device.
Thank you, sir. We did get a clarification on that visual ticket question. It looks like it's part of a florist type OMS platform. So I guess the question is not necessarily is it part of Visual Ticket, but the better question is, can it integrate with Visual Ticket? And I'll throw that back to you guys for an answer.
Yeah, I can jump on that real quick, just because I was vaguely familiar with Visual Ticket, at least as far as hearing the name of it. I am relatively confident that we have integrated with it in the past. That's not to say that we have like an active turnkey integration for it. But just from my own understanding of the API as well, though, I don't foresee there being an issue to actually having that API, having that integration with it. So it would be something, like I said before, you can contact us, and one of our implementation consultants can maybe advise on how that integration can be set up.
Thank you. Next question. How would you change the time if, for example, a driver shows up late and you want to change the start time without changing their route sequence?
So this is a little bit of a workaround, and just because I still have my screen shared, I can show it. We've had that question before, and what we actually have realized works pretty quick, simple, and easy is you would actually make the change within planning settings, as we sort of had described before. Sorry, I'll let it do its thing. So yeah, basically we would make that change. Let's say it's not 8 o'clock, but instead it's going to be 8:30. So I can save that, close. And under the routes tab, again, just to sort of show everybody, if you don't see it, we do have the start time as a column. So over any one of these column headers, I can click this drop down arrow, go to columns, and I can decide what I want to expose. This sort of view or display configuration is available under the orders tab as well. So we can show the start time. It's showing 8 a.m. right now. Now I need to double check. I can't remember exactly which driver it was for. I believe it was for Jen. So the idea would be, okay, it looks like it was for Frank. So the idea would actually be that if you select Frank, or the driver that we've changed the working hours for, click reverse route. That's going to obviously go in the opposite, and then I would do reverse route again. This is gonna basically, make it go backwards and then make it go the way we wanted it. Like I said, it's a bit of a workaround, but it essentially accomplishes exactly what we're looking for. I do have another feature activated, so that's why we're seeing slightly different. This is sort of the account I use for a lot of different scenarios. But basically, when we do that, it is going to reflect the start time that we changed. So that's sort of the easiest way to go about that. I will add that we do have a new feature that we're expecting within probably the next, let's say, month, give or take. And it's going to have a different workflow for the driver app itself, where a driver can go on duty, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they've started the route. There'll actually be an explicit button that they can press that will say, like, okay, I've gone on duty, but maybe I'm still loading my vehicle. And then they can actually click start route within the app. And that signifies, hey, I'm now going on duty, which is going to then subsequently update all of the, say, ETAs. So if your customers have received a customer notification, that ETA is going to be updated and reflect the correct ETA. And it'll say send out drivers on the way notifications to maybe that first driver only when they've said, hey, I'm starting my route. They've explicitly said, let's start going.
Got it. Question about being able to remove an order that is already in the route.
Sure. So the thing with that is it is going to depend on the order type. The big thing to remember or just be aware of is deliveries operate a little bit differently from, say, pickups or tasks. We can see I have my column here, order type. All of these orders are deliveries. So when it is a live route, the software understands that that item is physically on that vehicle. So currently, when you want to remove it, the system doesn't really like that because it knows that you can't magically remove that item from that vehicle. So one thing that you can do is the driver can go off duty. Off duty kind of disengages the device from the system a little bit, which means that orders that are meant to be done, they're scheduled, they can actually be say unscheduled or deleted or moved off of that route itself. Alternatively, if a route is shared and it's live, you can deactivate that route. So I'll just switch this back to day view. You can deactivate the route. What that is going to do is it is going to pull, as I said, it's always communicating with all of the devices at one time. So on the right side here, below the map in this blue black status bar, you'll see it says, deactivated. So I've already deactivated this live route. You deactivate it, it's going to pull those orders from those routes, from those devices. You can select the order, unschedule it, and then just click reactivate to again share it and have that no longer in the app for the driver to potentially deliver or service. I will just say real quick, if it's a task or a pickup, it's not the same restriction. There's a lot more fluidity or flexibility with tasks and pickups, and you can unschedule or delete those pretty much as you see fit.
Got it. Next question. Using the software to manage snow plowing route, and I have an issue where I have to hit the same home twice on the same day. The reporting does not recognize that location as two stops. Is there anything for that we can look at?
So what you're going to want to do with that is you're going to want to have two, let's call them instances of that visit within the system. And that's actually where a time window is going to come in handy. Now, obviously, I've cleared snow before myself, and you don't necessarily know when you're going to go, but the idea would be to at least have something that represents the number of visits you're going to have. So if you're visiting, 1, 2, 3 Main Street twice within a night, you're going to want to plan the route so that you have, maybe time windows for the first set of visits. So, maybe it's going to be all first stops should happen within, 12 and 2 a.m. you plan the routes, and then you'll maybe create a second instance of each of those. So an instance is going to be an order within OptimoRoute. So you'll have a second order that represents that location. And again, you'll maybe give it another time window that says 2 until 4. And you can run that optimization again. And then that way it'll actually be able to track those visits separately. So that's sort of the best way to go for it with snow removal. It is a very unique and niche industry and use case, but that's the way that we've heard is most successful source for some of the snowplow companies using us right now.
Thank you, sir. There's a question in here really related to roadmap, and the question is anything on the roadmap related to a capability where the driver out on the road, and this probably is back to the long haul follow-up kind of question, can schedule, could almost create his own schedule while out in the road based on availability. I know we have some capabilities where the driver has some control coming forward, but Devin, do you know anything specific around that we can share here? Or is this a question we may need to have product management follow up on?
We'd probably have to have one of our product managers follow up on it. I don't believe it's a huge priority for us to jump into something like that just yet. It's something I am aware that we've had conversations on opening things up a little bit more for somebody who has the driver app. But generally it is kind of, let's say, more centralized, let's say, by a dispatch. So in such a scenario, you kind of want to have more of a driver or tech communication with the dispatch to have that person actually look after adding or rearranging things for them within the app.
Yeah, we'll get this over to product management. We'll follow up with the customer that's asked the question. I am aware that there is some scope around something like this, but I don't know the detail. And so we'll have product management follow back up. Devin, you've already answered this question, but it's kind of reworded a little bit. So I'll just re-tee it up so we can just re-clarify the answer. I want to schedule the routes for one driver, but I'm not sure the time that driver is leaving yet and don't want to send those customer notifications. This would be very, with that new feature coming, the ability to basically say, listen, I'm loading a truck. My truck took way longer to load than everybody else's. I'm actually going to start my routes now and then push those notifications only once that's been set, correct?
Yeah, that's also very specific for, say, drivers on the way notifications. We do also have the scheduled time notification, and that's something that is triggered by, say, a dispatcher or somebody who is sitting at the computer and able to press that share routes button to initiate that send. So for the scheduled time notifications, that obviously would be more appropriate to send when you know or have confidence that your driver is going to be hitting the road. But yeah, exactly as you said, with this new update that we're going to have, that's going to be a lot more flexible, especially with those drivers on the way notifications. So that's something to definitely look forward to in the next little bit when we have it.
Yep. And then there is another one that, again, I think you actually showcased, but just to re-clarify it, what if a driver has to end his or her day due to an emergency? Are we able to divide the rest of their route evenly across all the other drivers? And you showed that when you basically replanned for the day, right? Took all of those orders that were unscheduled and had the algorithm again redistribute those across to the rest of the team.
Yeah, the key for that is going to be just make sure that driver or tech has gone off duty on their device, because especially if these are, say, deliveries, that kind of opens things up a little bit more. But yeah, if it's, say, a technician or somebody's doing pickups, then yeah, just have them go off duty, unschedule those drivers. Unschedule those orders that you want to plan and share with the other drivers. And you can either use that drag and drop to manually take orders from one route to another to move it, or again with that driver off duty and maybe lock their routes, and that way the system basically ignores it completely. you can then have it based on whatever change you're allowing to sort of spread things out across multiple drivers.
Last two questions here. We sometimes have locations where we meet out of town customers. Example would be a gas station. At times there is more than one customer meeting them there. So we'd like to separate these stops as obviously 2 or more stops, but it only allows one customer name at that address. Is there a workaround here?
So, I mean, for something like that, I suppose you could use, say, a notes field or something like that, just to sort of have a list of the different customers you're going to be meeting there. The idea with location is, again, it's representing a visit to a certain spot. In a lot of cases, that can be easily represented by a customer name. So, if there's multiple customers, then it could be either using notes to denote, hey, we're going to be meeting Joe, Stacy, and Steve. Or alternatively, you can just have multiple orders that are at that same location. So it's going to have just different customer names. It'll have the exact same address. And then that way you can even separately sort of keep track of, maybe collect a signature or take a photo, have a driver note, whatever it may be, but something to show that, hey, I was able to meet each one of these people individually. So that's the benefit of having individual orders for that as well.
Yep. And again, another one where potentially based on that workflow, I'm not sure we had all the detail there, but just reach out to our support teams, our implementation teams can kind of, again, understand that workflow and give you a couple of the suggestions that Devin mentioned, or potentially find one that works even better for you at that point. Last question here. Can we customize the customer notifications? We're a home care agency and the notifications are either your order or service appointment. Is there a possibility to customize it as nurse visit or visit?
Yeah, so the best place to do that is going to be within the text of the notification itself. So the text message they're going to receive, that stuff you can customize. Right now, you cannot customize the landing page for the tracking page itself. I think it's definitely worthwhile for us to look into something like that. So we'll definitely be passing it along to our product team. But yeah, again, you can easily update that or let's say customize it for the body of the text message or email to specifically say, your nurse visit has been scheduled for this time. Basically, whatever is going to best reflect your business and how you want to communicate with your own customers or clients.
Fantastic. So I do appreciate our attendees staying around. We know we ran over, but we did want to cover these questions. We know it's important to our audience. So thanks again to the audience for joining today. We do appreciate it. Thanks to my colleagues, both Nevin and Devin, for helping out and really showcasing their knowledge and sharing that with the audience. Again, as I mentioned, be on the lookout for a 201 session that will be directly after the holidays. And on behalf of OptimoRoute, I do want to wish everybody that's joined us today happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. And we look forward to a great 2024 in working with you. So before you go, we do have a quick poll. We've been trying to get more knowledge out to our customers. These webinars have been useful. People have been telling us, but we want to see if there's other forms or formats we can share information. So if you could just give a quick answer to the poll before you jump, we would certainly appreciate it. And that would allow us to give you some more content as well in 2024. Thanks again. Do appreciate